Let's see how loud it is without the muffler on. The tailpipe ends right after the catalytic converter. It's only fair, since I have one time in my life, or at least the life of this vehicle, dying to hear what it sounds like. Just for 2 seconds. This could be interesting. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Well, that's not that bad. That's not near as bad as I thought it was. That sounds kind of cool. Oh my god, that sounds really good. That sounds like some of my old muscle cars. I like that sound. Shit. If I knew I didn't have to be changing my state of licensing and registration in the next year, maybe 2, I would keep it like that, because that sounds kind of tough. But the thing is, what's most important that you have to realize is that even though it did sound kind of tough, is that you need this for back pressure and for the electronics in the computer. Man, that sounded cool. That sounded like, that just sounded cool. Okay, I gotta get to work, guys. Enjoy. Now, I know this is outside of my normal nature, sunset, animal things that I usually do, but I also do occasional car repair videos. Look at how much I had to bust that baby off to get it off. You would not believe how a 1-hour job turned into multiple hours. Of course, all I was using was a few standard screwdrivers and a chisel, and of course my Dodge tire jack that came with the vehicle, and thankfully I did not mess that up. There's the existing pipe hanging down below. So Walker is not exactly the same as the one that Dodge put on there. The one that Dodge put on there lasted 134,000 miles. This is original. So cheers and props to Dodge. They did a good job putting it on there, and their product lasts a long time. Weight is an issue. You know what? The one by Dodge, I can tell by lifting it. I don't have a scale that has the capability, but this one from Dodge is a few pounds heavier, which is interesting, right? Could be thicker gauge metal. I think so. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely much thicker gauge metal than the Walker. But you know what? This one by Dodge was starting to leak. You can see, well, it wasn't leaking there at that seam, but all around the edge it was leaking. You can see where I patched it. And I peeled off the patch, of course. Now, what started this whole issue? Really? What started this issue? How come there's this crimp in here? And what started the issue of it leaking? It would have lasted much, much longer. But what happened was, back when I was living in Birmingham, Alabama, many years ago, a couple tire changes ago, sets of 4, the previous set of tires that I have now, which were Michelin's, of course, because that's what came with the product when it came off the showroom floor, Dodge installed Michelin tires. What happened was the little boy put this 1-ton van up on a jack that's only made for small, compact cars. And what it did, it bent my drive shaft. It pushed in my, I believe it's a fiberglass gas tank, which did not leak. So when I left the shop and got up to about 25, 30 miles an hour, I kept feeling this boom, 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 boom vibration underneath the car. So I went to a different, it was a Big O tires actually. So I went to a different Big O tires thinking that they just didn't rebalance it. Well, I go back to the same shop. They're just going to take the tires off and say, everything's okay. So I went to a different shop of Big O tires. I have nothing good to say about Big O tires in all my experience in all the last 70,000 miles of having this vehicle. And I went to a different shop, and they rebalanced the tires, and there's nothing wrong. Go down the road, get up to about 25, 30 miles an hour, boom, 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 boom. Vibration like crazy. So I brought it to my dealership, because it was still under warranty. I brought it to my dealership, and they said, hey, your drive shaft is bent. And to replace the drive shaft, you also have to replace the seal where it goes into the transmission, which you can't see because the catalytic converter is in the way. And so they replaced the drive shaft and the seal and left it at that, and we just let the gas tank go because it seemed to be okay. But I should have had them replace the muffler at that time also. Big O Tires was more than happy to cover the cost of the bill, because at that time I was just starting to photograph and videotape things, and I felt uncomfortable, and I pulled out my camera and I started videotaping the boy with this little jack that he hoisted up from the middle of the vehicle just so he could lift up the front end to pop the front tires off and put the brand new tires on that I had purchased. I had a feeling. So about 15 years ago, and I should have had them also replace the muffler, because at the time the muffler had shown signs that it was compressed and crushed, and at that time there was leakage at the seam, but we just left it be. It's only going to take me 15 minutes to get this back on. And while I'm recording video, why not? Let me show you the clamps that I got for it. Or are they right here? I think they're right here. I thought they're in my... No, they're right here. And these are what I'm using for clamps instead of just a typical little U-bolt for my muffler. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that. Perfect fit for a cup holder. Isn't that awesome? It can be mounted somewhere, but you know what? It costs $15 for the two of these. I'm not going to go and buy two more of those for $15 for a cup holder, when you can just get something cheap in plastic for a couple dollars. But I just thought that was really cool and wanted to share that with you. Who would have thought, right? They fit so perfectly. Instead of using the U-joint clamps, which most people use, I got these. This is a much better clamp. The ID-OD fits perfectly on there. And I checked this with the pipe, fits perfectly. Now, these, someone would probably consider using these in an emergency situation if they had to cut their tailpipe, and I feel sorry if you ever have to do that, because the pipe on the tailpipe or the pipe that goes to the catalytic converter is much, much heavier gauge, and really, honestly, should never, ever, ever be cut. Okay? That's why these are thinner gauge than your tailpipe. So when you have to do something like this, so you don't mess up your tailpipe. And my tailpipe has scratches, of course. It has scratches, but it does not have dents. If you go in 1/3 from the end of the rust, almost to the middle of the end of the pipe to where the rust line ends, you can see that that tailpipe has actually been compressed from the muffler, from the U-bolt they put on the muffler, and the tailpipe goes inside the muffler. You can see they compressed that at the factory so tight that it actually, I don't want to say dented, but, or crimped, but you can tell that there's a definite change in the circumference, about between 1/3 to a halfway in on that rust line. Which isn't a problem. I already pre-fit this on Zoom. I already pre-fit this, and the tailpipe slides in as far as it needs to go. No problem. And I haven't pre-fit the inlet side up by my converter. On this side I have not pre-fit it, but I have no fears that everything, there we go, that everything will fit fine and go in as far as it needs to. It's about 2 inches it has to go in. It actually goes in about that far, just about all the way in. So this is not as good quality. Walker is not as good quality. But you know what made me most happiest is that there is no carbon inside my existing muffler on the inlet or outlet side. No carbon. And what that means, folks, is that my engine is running fine and not burning oil. Now I noticed the Dodge has a weep hole. That's for moisture to get out. And critically important. And that's why I blasted 134,000 miles. Well, technically, maybe 130. But the walker does not have a weep hole anywhere in it. So now I question, should I put one in here? We'll see how things line up as for levelness, but I may put a weep hole in here. Because this walker, I know now, from fact, from weight and from where the baffle is on the inside, will not last the 130,000 miles that the factory one lasted. That, in my mind, is an absolute fact. Before I even put it on, I know that to be a fact. But either way, it's off. There's nothing I can do. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere at a state park, and there's nothing I can do about it now. I'm certainly not going to put the old one back on. We'll put this one on, and with using these clamps, there won't be an issue with it seizing up like it did before. What a relief. What a video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for following along. And cheers. Cheers. I'm happy. It took a lot of work. I actually had to use my car jack to hoist this to put pressure. Where did I do it at? I don't remember. Of course, you don't want to use a hanger on your tailpipe. You don't ever want to put pressure on the hanger. That's critically important. And as for the tailpipe, there is control lines back there and also a brake line, a metal brake line. So if you're wrestling that tailpipe out, you do not want to have it be smashing against your metal braided, heavy-duty braided brake line, of course. And there's some controls back there that go into the rear end. I didn't know there's any electronics for the rear end, but there's some kind of control wires. You certainly don't want any issue there. Or you do not want your hot exhaust to be touching any of those wires, even though they have an extra coating around. I think there's 3 wires. So let's put this back on. This is only going to be 15 minutes now. Quarter hour from this point forward. I am just so happy and relieved. Okay, let's get to work and get this back on.